Hey guys, what's up and welcome back. We're going to do a couple of TvT walkthroughs against a opponent named Garul, who I thought played pretty well, and we got to play two standard games against each other. So, if we just... it's very difficult in TvT because we have to scout and analyze what we see when we scout, but let's just focus on our opener for a second. So we're going double gas, which is Rax, gas, gas, and I do a scout. And then opponent scouted earlier than me, so I decided to chase him, and it scuffs the build a little bit. But basically the open should be Reaper, Orbital Depot, and then Factory with a 3-worker gas pull. And then Reaper, Reaper, expand into Cyclones and Ravens, and then I play Marine Tank Medevac, right? So what's tricky is in TvT we have to react to what we're seeing from the scouting. So let's see what units I built here. So I've got... So right now my open, basically, because now everything is making add-ons, is Reaper, Reaper, Cyclone. And right now it's 2 Reapers and 2 Cyclones versus 1 Cyclone and 4 Marines. And that's because my opponent seemingly went... He went Reaper, Reactor, and he lost his 1 Reaper. So he went Reaper, Reactor, sent his Reaper out to scout, and then started making Marines. He made 1 Cyclone, and he's going into tanks. And then both games, this dude makes Cloak Banshees, which is another reason why these games are good, actually. On my side, I'm just playing Reaper Cyclone. And then the other thing with TvT that makes it different than all the other matchups is you basically have to probe and kind of skirmish with your units, and that's to get scouting. Like, if you don't skirmish with your units, then your only scouting is going to be scans, and you might not scan at perfect times. You might miss a lot if you're just relying on scans. So we go to the watchtower, and then we should not be rallying these Marines. We should only be having our mobile force out here. And then tank on the high ground, the 4 Marines go in a bunker, and I'm going to back off for a little while. So now let's go back to our side. We're now making Marine, Raven, Tank. And then after 2 Ravens, we switch the starport and barracks, and then we go into our macro cycle. So our macro cycle is 3 base, double engineering bay, and then 111 up to 311 up to 511 up to 521. So it's ideally always looks like that, and then you're playing off 3 gas for a while too. So it's basically 2 base, 3 gas. You start with the 111. When you do the switch, the add-on switch to get stim, that's when you transition into 3cc. And I'll just pause to talk about that for a second, because you stay on 111, because if you start getting pressured or pushed by the opponent, you just have to build off of 111. And what you want to build is tech units, right? So if all of a sudden you start seeing yourself get pressured, the way you can handle it is, in my opinion, the worst case is building more Ravens. You want to come off Ravens, because when the Raven pops and all you have is 1 single auto turret, that's not valuable. The value of the Raven is interference matrixing tanks, right? So what we need in a 1-1-1 situation, if we're getting pushed at the front, is basically Marine, Tank, Viking, and then like a lib maybe, right? So you can go this same setup, this add-on swap, and just make Vikings and then Marines and then tanks, right? But here the difference is we're going stim with Marine, and we're going medevac tank, because we're going to be aggressive with the medevacs and the Vikings as our air force. And then you get the double eBay with the 3cc, and then you just increase the Rax add-on. So you go from 111, add the 2 with reactors, and then, like, as you're taking your... You can basically just add the 2 before you land your 3rd and start getting your economy going off 3. But unless you're mining from your 3rd, you cannot add the second factory, basically. You cannot play 2 base with 2 factory. So you either have to land the third before you get the second factory, and then the armory ideally as well. Like you can play 2 base and upgrade to 2/2 plus the vehicle weapons, but you cannot play 2 base with a 5/2/1 setup. At most you're on a 5/1/1. So that's basically the macro opener, and then we're crossing the map with 2 Raven, 2 Cyclone, 2 Reaper. So we didn't lose any of our early game units whatsoever. And then we've added on 15 Marines, 2 tanks, and 3 medevacs. So really it should be, an ideal setup would be 2 Ravens, 3 tanks, 4 medevacs. Would be reasonable to get up to. And then we would want to stop at exactly 46 workers, basically. Okay, so we're making combat shield, and 1/1 is done, along with interference matrix. So we're going to take this fight basically 1/1, stim shield, interference matrix. So we're moving across the map. He's trying to take his third, which is very reasonable. He's got 3 tanks in the front, 3 Vikings, and his Banshees. So we just maneuver around his Vikings, interference matrix the tanks, and then win the fight with Marine Medevac. And then that was the end of the game. And the thing reset. Hold on. Get back to the end of the game. Alright, so let's play this at normal speed, because in TvT, these are the only things that matter, which are these fights, right? So this is normal speed. We see his Vikings, direction they're going. We try to get under them, go to the tanks, and we dropped our spells. And if we look at our Ravens, this one has 1 auto turret, and this one has 2 auto turrets. So we could have gone scramble, scramble, turret, 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 and then this fight would be like, you know, chef's kiss, because the turrets would start immediately shooting down the Vikings. But this is basically enough to end this game, right? Like, we didn't even watch, but he was harassing with Banshees. He's taking his third, he's building his fourth, and he was on basically like a 4 barracks setup, trying to get shells. What's his upgrades? No, he didn't get, he missed shells, and he was making marauders. And then I started +2, but I probably shouldn't have started +2 at this point, because there's no point, like if I'm pushing, there's no point in doing the upgrade and waiting for the upgrade to finish. This one takes like 2 minutes to finish. So what I should instead have set up is my 4th and 5th racks are missing, and then I would want to be making SCVs basically. So at this point, I should have my 4th and 5th racks. I have plenty of money. I should have my 4th and 5th rack down, and I should just hold down the SCV key to make 15 SCVs. And that would be, what, 750 minerals? Yeah, so basically I have 1,300 minerals, and for 1,000 minerals, I can go 2 racks and 15 SCVs, and that would be a good use of the money. And then also, obviously, another wave of units. And 2 depots, yeah. So pretty obvious what I should be doing there. And then opponent just looks like he's trying to get into his 3 base setup. And I attack right as he's trying to do that. So my Ravens go down. My Marines with the extra sustain from the medevacs win the fight. So he's got more Marines because he kept making them, and our 3 tanks are safe back here. We can move those forward to siege the natural. Or we could just load everything up into the medevacs and doom drop, which is probably the play, actually. So usually what you should do when you break the 3rd and you have medevacs is just load the medevacs and drop. because the natural is going to be heavily fortified with the choke. And then while they're dealing with that, you just macro up to your full 3 CC setup, and then drop the 4th probably in the main. And just get your full 3-3 set. Get your full 3 base setup. Go all the way up with upgrades, like fully upgrade the bio on the 3 base setup with the 4th, and then before the next transition, you would drop the 4th and play off of that. Like, as this base is mining out, you're dropping the 4th, basically. Going up to, like, 74 SCVs. Alright. So, game 2 versus this guy. He also makes Ravens, or not Ravens, Banshees again. That's the other reason I enjoyed playing this guy, because neither of us changed our build, and like we weren't like salty about the game. Okay, so Depot, Rax, Gas, Rally the Scout, Gas. Fully saturate the first gas, fully saturate the second gas. On the mini-map, I saw that his scout was coming, so I brought my SCV down to get the quick wall block. And then factory, and I missed the gas pull again. Okay, so I got the gas pull late, and then I get my CC down, and I'm just going to start high ground expanding in this matchup, because it's just fine. So let's go back and look at the timing of the 1-1-1 setup, because it is very important. So in the old, I'll start at 2:30, I guess. So in the old way of doing this, you would look to get the starport at 3 minutes, basically. 295, 3 minutes. Here, we're going... The order in which we do the reactor is important, right? Because what we're doing is we're spending our gas, right? So if you think about what we have to spend gas on next, we need a reactor, a cyclone, and a starport. The reactor is 50 gas, the starport is 100 gas, and then now the cyclone is 50 gas. So they changed up the cyclone quite a bit. They changed up the cost of the Cyclone quite a bit. They took off the Tech Lab requirement. So the Cyclone used to almost cost as much as a tank, right? Pre-patch, the tank is 150. The tank is 150 mineral, 125 gas at 3 supply, and the Cyclone used to be 150 mineral, 100 gas at 3 supply. So a Cyclone was 25 gas cheaper than a tank in the previous patch. Tank is a very, like, tier 2 good unit. 3 supply, 125 gas. Now the Cyclone cost, I think it's like 125 mineral and 50 gas. I have to check and update my spreadsheet, because the numbers here are extremely important. But basically I have a reactor, a Cyclone, and a starport to build, and that's 200 gas, right? And currently, I've got 152 gas, and I'm slow mining because I haven't dropped my 3rd yet, right? So what's the most important order here? It's arguably the Cyclone, the starport, then the reactor. So let's see what order I drop these things in. So there's my natural, so I can put back on gas. And I go Cyclone, starport, reactor. And I've got some left over now. So yeah, you basically... That's why the gas pull is good, because now it's going to be a bit, and this is going to be mineral only, and then out of my factory and starport, the next thing that's going to happen is this is going to cost 50 for the next Cyclone, and it's going to cost 25 for the Tech Lab, and then 25 for the Tech Lab. So that's the next 100 gas, is Cyclone, Tech Lab, Tech Lab. And then when the Ravens come out, they start getting expensive at 150 gas per Raven, and they used to be 200. So The Cyclone and the Raven have both changed significantly, that it alters the opening of TvT. Not completely, but like you have to adjust to it. Like you cannot use the previous 111 openers because they've changed, because the cost of both the Cyclone and the Raven has changed basically significantly, plus the Cyclone not requiring the tech lab changes things a lot. So, okay. Better depot placement for vision, so I don't have blind spots in my main base. He scouts with his Reaper again. Doesn't get any kills. He's just scouting. And then now I'm in the Marine Tank Raven phase, and I land my natural, make it into an orbital, and build the gas. So yeah, that works out fine for the gas. Do the swap. There's an argument where you should probably build your 111 setup down here like this. You don't do that because you don't want the scouting. And then I almost made my next two racks, but I chose instead to follow the correct macro pattern. There's his Banshees. He gets 3 kills with them. He's making hyperflight rotors this game. And then now I'm ready to transition after getting stim to 3 base and 2 racks. So when did I try to build the extra racks and quit? When did I do that? Because I should do that after I start stim. I think that would have been okay, actually. I basically chose to do units. Yeah, okay. So the reason I did that is because I screwed up depot production, basically. That's the error. So it goes 3 depots and the expansion. So it's basically 15 and 15 and then 24. So 54 is like the place where people get supply blocked. Because what's happened is you've scripted the first 3 depots and the expansion. That gets you to 54. And then you got to remember to build the next depot to go continuous depots after that. And that's why I'm floating money, so I can't really afford the 3 racks yet. I wasn't even making units at that point, right? So supply blocked. So I do have a 62. Yeah. See how my tank isn't building? That's a huge problem. So you really got to focus on continuous depots there. That's 2 tanks, 4 medevacs. No, 3 tanks, 4 medevacs. Okay, get into a defensive posture. Because I'm still looking for the Banshees. Building my double depots. Getting turrets, getting 1-1. Okay. All right. So I've now pushed out with 1-1 stim shields. And my opponent basically forgot combat shield. That kind of sucks. But it's a similar situation as last game. So we're at like 9 minutes. We're pushing out. He's doing 2 factory and a bunch of racks. So it's almost like you'd think what he's got is better, right? But what he did this time, he went 1... Like, look at the delta here. It's 1 Raven versus 2 Raven, 6 tank versus 4 tank, 32 Marine versus 11 Marine, and 52 versus 44. He's really got me beat pretty much, right? He's ahead. There's no doubt he's ahead. And then I don't have anything that breaks parity because I don't have my armory yet. right? So he's got more racks, an extra factory. He doesn't have armory either. And his upgrades are a little later. This is gonna end up costing him, I think, in this fight. Alright, so let's see how the fight goes. Alright, so we know we're coming. Okay. So right here is the first big mistake where we load up, but we did not bring the tanks, right? So if we loaded up, brought the tanks, and then dropped right here on top of his factory, that's basically game right there, right? Like just dropping anywhere right here where we're on top of his two factories, on top of his ramp. So we load up and boost in. Also, if we had the control to send the Raven home, that would have been nice. We do get out with it. And then now, we're not like that far ahead, right? The tank count is the same. The Marine count's basically the same. He's up on SCVs. The difference is my 311 setup is fully producing, and then he's not making units, and he's floating 2K. He just needs to make his units now. Let's see what he does. He should. Yeah, so he goes Marine, Viking, 2 tanks. Yep. So again, right, like he's not producing. He's definitely producing stuff. Okay, I open that path up. At home, I'm getting my 3-base setup. So I'm getting my factory and my extra racks. I've got my armory. Yep. Sensor tower on the 3rd. Still fighting this fight. Pushed up the middle a little bit. Now I'm definitely going to lose that Raven. No, I get out with the Raven. Okay. And that's why pushing the natural is hard. So you're just trying to deny the 3rd, and you should be elevatoring in. I should be repairing this mech. I don't think I do that. Okay, I'm going to go up to 8 racks. I'm going to go up to 8 racks with Marauders, though. I've dropped the 4th. That's important. So don't build your extra production until you've dropped the 4th, right? So extra production would either be the 3 racks and then decide whether to go all Marine or some mix of Marine Marauder. I kind of like having a mix of Marine Marauder. I like 5 reactors and 3 tech labs for the Marine Marauder mix. That's one way of doing it, or you could just go all Marines, and ideally that would be 8 reactors, 16 Marines at a time, or 15 if you're lazy. Another way of doing it would be 3 factories, probably all on tech labs. And then another way of doing it would be starports, 2 extra starports. And if you're doing the 2, regardless, you should probably at this point also add an extra armory, but maybe you do like armory and like another starport and another factory or something like that. The question is when you add the fusion core, right? You probably add the fusion core when you go up to 3 or 5 starports, and maybe you pick one or the other. So if you go extra factory, maybe you go double armory, and if you go extra starport, maybe you go 1 armory and fusion core. I'm not really sure how greedy you should be with the upgrades at this point, basically. Like what, because this is when you have to decide what your late game transition is, right? This is what your mid game looks like, and then adding the extra production takes you into late game, and then you kind of have to decide, okay, am I you gotta slant towards mech, right? So you're like, all right, am I Marine tank Viking? Less emphasis on the Marines, or am I Marine medevac supported by tanks? More emphasis on like bio medevac, right? So that's basically how you should decide. Like, if you're going to go more heavy into bio, then you have to lean more heavy into medevacs, which is the style that I've chosen. And then to actually win games, you have to use drops, right? And then the other way of playing is more mech based, where you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to be more tank Viking with some supporting Marines, or I'm going to go like straight up like tank Viking with Liberators, and that's like a pure siege style. Like literally all you can do is siege, so you are not mobile at all. Versus Marine tank Viking, which is slightly less mobile. You can like move around the map and then take up a position, right? You're not siege crawling. And then bio medevac with, you know, like some tank support and then some mix of Marine and maybe Marauder. So like Marine Marauder tank and the Viking in the medevacs. And then with all of those builds, Ravens are good utility, right? So the only units that we're not really looking at in that play style, we're not looking at different we're not looking at any variety out of the factory, right? We're basically just saying go only tank. But if you're starting a game with no bio whatsoever, then you're playing factory style and you're playing with Hellions and Hellbats and maybe Widow Mines and stuff like that too, right? So that's where TvT is really tricky, right? Like TVZ, we just decided we're going to play mech. We're just going to play battle mech into power mech. And then in TVP, we're always just going to play some kind of drop into bio. So like bio medevac with ghosts, and then libs if we need to, but like air support. So it's basically bio medevac ghost with air support, whether that's Vikings or libs, depending on what stage of the game you're in. That's TVP. TVZ, battle mech into power mech. That's straightforward. TVT, we have to be very adaptable. We have to adapt to what we see from a scouting perspective. If they're doing proxy, we have to have a very specific response. And then if they do tank push, we have to have a very specific response. And then other than that, we're getting up to our, 2cc standard 311 bio play, and then our 3cc standard 521 bio play. And our preference is to go medevac style rather than Viking style because we want to be moving around the map. I don't like to just sit back defensively. I want to be pressuring their bases with a stim A move, basically. I want to go stim A move into their bases with siege tank support, and then the utility of the Ravens helps you take a contested position. Like without the Ravens, you can't just push into their third. You have to have the Ravens to disable the tanks, and then you can A move push into the third. And at that stage of the game, the Vikings aren't that useful. The Marines, if the Marines are just fighting Marine with no medevac versus Marine medevac, my Marines win, and then my Marines can take care of the Vikings before I have to worry about the tanks, which are disabled. So that's why I highlighted these two games, because my opponent played me in a way where we both got to have our kind of mid-game fights. Like he's harassing with his Banshees, and then he goes Viking tank to take his third, and then I'm just like trying to play safe with my 2 Reaper, 2 Cyclone open, and then the Ravens don't have any utility until I'm ready for my push. The Ravens are basically now useless defensively, which is what they used to be good defensively because the auto turret was tankier. It had armor, and it lasted. The auto turret has just been nerfed, right? Like the auto turret doesn't have the same armor. It doesn't have the same total damage, whether it's turret duration or DPS. I think they reduced the turret duration and removed the armor from it, or at least lessened the armor. Like it might have been 2 armor before or 1, and then now it's 0 or something like that. So before we could play against tank push, we could just have our Ravens and drop auto turrets, and that would typically be enough, but the auto turrets are no longer sufficient, and you cannot interference matrix your way out of a contain. Like if they come to your side of the map and do a contain on your natural with tank Viking, 2 auto turrets isn't going to be sufficient. Their Vikings are going to knock down your Ravens, and your 2 auto turrets are going to get instantly cleaned up by the infantry, the small amount of infantry, and then you just lose. So against tank push, you have to switch into tank Viking, and a good way to do that might be to go 2 factory, starport, and then make Marines out of the naked barracks, because you're basically doing that anyway. You're either on the tech lab trickling out 1 Marine, which is useless, or you're on the reactor trickling out 2 Marines, which is useless, and you don't have stim yet, so you might as well use that factory and that tech lab for, make a new factory and use that tech lab for tanks, and then just go 2 tanks, 2 Vikings at a time, and hope that you can out tank them basically on the rallies. You just keep walking back with your tanks, which is a terrible situation to be in, and you probably need to try and be in front of your base with the Reaper Cyclone and try and just kind of peck at them and hope that they don't siege you and contain you, right? Because once you're containing your natural at the beginning of the game, in the first 5 minutes, it's very hard to come out of that ahead. You're probably going to lose slowly at that point. So yeah, let's finish this one out. So we try to cross the map again, and then he's in a good siege position, and we're kind of trapped. And then I pick everything up and cross the wall and pull back, which was good because he was going to pin me right there. And then he rotates over. I go up to the ramp and siege. We did pick off 1 tank, which was good. He stays out of siege range, which is good. So overall, he's playing really well, I would say. And then on the production tab, you can see... Does he have 2-2 already? No, he hasn't started his 2-2 yet. So it is... He is missing shields, and he hasn't started 2-2. And then I'm about to get my 2-2 plus my vehicle weapons, and I've got concussive on the way, and I'm making marauders, and I'm making the 2 tech lab, 1 reactor on the barracks. So I'm going into that 3 tech lab, 5 reactor style with shells to make marauders. So basically, you don't get concussive shells until you commit to making marauders, basically. And I wouldn't commit to making marauders unless I had the 3 tech labs. I don't want to make marauders out of just the out of the 1 Rex, but you know, I mean, maybe there's an argument for it because the marauder shoots a little further and has the snare. I guess when push comes to shove, you can on a 5-2-1 setup get concussive and make 1 marauder at a time. I think that's still okay. So this is a good moment in the game here. So he's intercepting my 4th base. So again, I like the way this guy plays. Like, he's got a supply lead. He's in a good position. We have a scan battle. I could move my medevacs forward. He leaves 1 tank and I airdrop it, which I think is like a funny interaction. He scans to see that I'm there. In my sensor tower, I see him rotating over to the 3rd. We siege first with more tanks, ever so slightly. And then he tries to elevator into my main, but I've got turrets set up from when I defended his Banshees. And then now the game is basically essentially won by me. I should just be pushing at his 4th now with the superior force. One siege up, and then push and siege. So shove and siege, and that's the game. And then on the upgrades, this is like, in my opinion, like the kind of like perfect mid-game upgrade suite in a TvT. So it's bio, either with Marauder or not, and then it's the 2-2 and the +1 and the interference matrix. And then everything that you would decide to do after this would be basically your late game build. Like if you're leaning heavier into air or if you're leaning heavier into ground mech. And then if you're just doing the bio style, I don't know if you want libs. If you do the bio style, probably what you want to do is 2 more starports with tech labs, make like 4 ravens, and then get the fusion core and get the reactor upgrade for the medevacs, and then go up to, if you're doing it like that, then get the +3/+3 for the vehicle weapons all the way before going into plating armor. If you're playing medevac style, that's what I would say. Yep, so then it's just a matter of fixing saturation. We always do macro practice at the end of the games. Units, the SCV count's pretty even. We would try and get this up to 74 on 4 base. Ideally, you would be at 66 to 68. Maybe just 66 is where you want to be on 3 base, and then 74 on 4 base. So it would be like 46 on 2 base, 66 on 3 base, or 74 on 4 base are the good numbers to aspire to. And then in this matchup especially, you just want to get up to those numbers. So like get up to your 46 and then macro off your hotkeys and reinforce your army. And then get up to your 66, macro off your hotkeys and reinforce your army. And then get up to your 74, macro off your hotkeys, reinforce your army. That's how you have to play the game in the mirror matchup. And then drop some extra bases to get the, like put like a 5th here and a 6th here so that you can float and expand. Like here, if you're rich, you can go base, and then that'll give you your expansion patterns, and then you can just add your extra bases from there. Got a whole bunch of tanks at home, which isn't a bad thing. But that's what happened. That's what happens when you F2, or I just didn't unsiege. So like, what I probably did is I F2'd across the map, and these just stayed here. And then hopefully you're sieging by clicking. You don't want to F2 siege because you'll leave tanks in the rally path. So always try and siege your tanks by ideally control clicking. So you want to go control click, siege on siege. Another good move is always sieging the first one. So like, as you're walking, just siege one, and then push in and do your control click siege. Or box and tab. So that's boxed, and then 2 clicks on my mouse. And it's 2 clicks because I have the Marauders. If I just have Marines, it's 1 click. And then you can go back for stem. If you go down, it's another 2. Probably easier to just double click it, honestly. Tab, tab. Tab, tab. Yeah. And then it would change if you had a Raven in there too. That's definitely a good way to do it though. Just know that it's either a click or a double click. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. I know I stumbled through that a little bit. That's just how complicated TvT is. It's very... it's unbelievably difficult type of gameplay to describe what you are doing and what you need to accomplish. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great one.